Hey guys, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Gerber Flatiron. This is a knife that's been around for quite a while, and this is a review that I'm looking forward to. Because the Flatiron is a design that kind of special to me. We'll get into that later. So, let's go ahead and start off with some size comparisons. We will use my favorite one. Spoiler alert, I guess, maybe. Here he is against the Ontario Rat 1. Here he is against the Ontario Rat 2. So about Rat 1 size. Quite different looking, though. Here he is against the... Well, we'll just go ahead and do these guys. Gerber Paraframe. And the Gerber Mini Paraframe. Mini Gerber Paraframe, whatever. So, bigger than the Mini, which isn't a surprise, and also bigger than the regular, which, I mean, this honestly isn't a big knife either. Okay. Here he is against the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. We're starting to get into the Gideon's blue knives. And here he is against the Benchmade Bug Out. Yeah, I do like my blue knives in all shades. So, even a little bit bigger than the PM2. The Flatiron is not a small knife. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Here he is against another blue knife. The Civivi Praxis. Here it is against the Civivi Elementum. So, maybe a tad bigger than the Praxis. Just a tad. Here's a Flatiron against my favorite knife ever, the Cold Steel 8015. And here it is against one of my favorite budget knives ever, the CJRB Feldspar. Alright. You know, I sometimes forget how big the Feldspar is. It just feels a lot smaller. But this video isn't about the Feldspar, so go away. Okay. So, this knife comes in a couple different flavors. You can get them with 7CR 13, I think is the steel 7. Anyways, a 7CR steel blade with a G10. I think it's you can get this tan G10, and then you can get a black aluminum, and there might be a couple other colors of aluminum in G10. Or you can get it with D2 blade steel and this blue micarta scale. So this knife is a frame lock, stainless steel frame lock. Price on these guys, you can find the basic version for, I think, anywhere between about $30-$35, which I think is a little bit overpriced. But and the D2 version you can find about $45 to $55, depending on where you buy it, which I think is not so bad. So, let's go ahead and let's go and do some cardboard cutting. For the cardboard cutting, we're going to put aside the 7CR one. We're going to use the blue D2. That blade is very polished. So, let's go cut some cardboard. Alright, let's take down some cardboard with our Gerber Flatiron. I don't think I have any complete boxes today, but I do have a bunch of scraps. So we will just go ahead and do those. So the blade, as you can see, is I've heard some people call this a straight razor blade, which I kind of I'd call it a cleaver blade. In fact, this is a knife that kind of, in my mind at least, was a big part of the cleaver craze that was going on, a couple years ago. So again, before we start anymore, this is the D2 version. This is the upgraded Flatiron. So, just so you're aware. So, as is usually the case with cleavers, thin behind the edge, this is not. And so if you're trying to do if you're expecting this to be a laser beam, that is not what you're in for. This choil here is very useful. You can choke up in there. This box has some of that reinforcement on the side that makes things difficult. Let's see if we can just kind of hack through that. Make this a little more straight. So, reinforcement, let's see if we can hack through it with our cleaver, because that's what cleavers are for. If it doesn't bend. Yeah. So I've always said about cleavers that I think, where a cleaver blade belongs on a folder is in a knife that you're just going to be using to take down cardboard. I think cleaver knives work very well in that regard. And another thing about cleavers is they're very easy to sharpen, since they're pretty much exactly just a straight edge. So if you find yourself taking down a lot of cardboard, get yourself a cleaver. This knife also says that finger choil is so big when you're using it, it's great, but if you're choked back, you do gotta be careful not to get anything in that choil, because it will make problems for you. But if you choke up in the choil there, no problem at all. All right, so let's go talk about how this guy carries, and probably destroy some more cardboard to add to this mess I've made. Let's do it. So let's take a closer look at our Gerber Flatiron here. Again, using the D2 version. So let's see what it looks like in the pocket. So it's not low profile. It carries pretty nicely. The weight on this guy is about 4 ounces, which is pretty light. And I know you're all going to be saying, no, that's not light. Well, if you're comparing it to the Benchmade Bug Out or something, no, it's not light. But for a stainless steel frame lock of this size, it's pretty light, actually. I'm kind of impressed by that. The clip, it's this fat, kind of unique clip. It works. I mean, it's nothing amazing, but it's not offensive either. It works. I don't have a problem there. The action. Yeah, you can Spidey flick it. It is running on phosphor bronze. No blade play. Yeah. Thumb flick it. Oh yeah, all day long. The action on this is a lot better than previous versions. On the blade, very reflective finish on this D2, which for D2 you don't see that very often. I love looking at the lock side of this guy. You have this dark stuff contrasting with all the shiny, the blade and the over travel stop and the clip. Very, very nice. Speaking of that over travel stop, this is one of the coolest features of the Flatiron, and I believe Gerber's used it on some other models too, like the Asada. But you can put your fingers on here, and not when you're Spidey flicking, but like when you're thumb flicking, put your fingers on there, and there's no pressure on the lock bar. Your fingers are on this plate that's not part of the lock bar, which allows you to flick the knife open without putting unnecessary pressure on the detent via the lock bar. So that's pretty cool. This knife here does have a tiny bit of lock stick. When I first got it, it was worse. I've been using it for a while now, and I've been using this guy pretty hard. The finish is kind of scratched up and stuff. And actually, I realized after I did the box cutting that he was not the sharpest he could have been. So I sharpened him up just a little tiny bit. I'm sorry, buddy. Wasn't so fair to you there, but perfectly serviceable utility blade. And I think that's what's great about cleavers is they really are a utility blade. You know, you can choke up here and get a lot of power in your cut. Speaking of sharpening, you know, cleavers are easy to sharpen because it's just a straight edge, but this guy's very easy to sharpen because of this choil here. So I appreciate that a whole lot. I think this knife looks really, really pretty. I'm partial to blue knives, and I don't know, I really like it. You know, there's something, I've always thought the Gerber logo was really cool, and seeing that D2 under there, you know, seeing the, just makes me happy, you know. Makes me happy to have a Gerber in my pocket that I enjoy. And, you know, I know that Gerber's made, you know, the fastball and stuff like that, but honestly, the fastball, the look of it didn't really appeal to me. I'll probably get one at some point, but I don't know, it just doesn't look like my thing. But ergos, pretty comfy. Here, choke up, pretty comfy. There's no jimping on the top, but the top of the blade isn't really sharp. So, you know, if you're doing scraping or push cuts like that, very, very nice. Overall, I really, really like this knife. Maybe I'm biased because, you know, I have history with this knife, but I like it quite a bit. So let's go back to the table and let's talk about what I do and don't like about this guy. All right, Gerber Flatiron. What do I like? Well, I've already said I might be a little bit biased here because, you know, I have good memories with this knife. But I like the look of it. I think it's a very unique looking knife. I think it's a very, especially this version here with the blue micarta. I love blue. I've said it before. And then this, you know, two-tone kind of finish here on the lock side. I think it looks good. I think it really looks good. The cleaver blades, you know, there's a big craze about them a couple years ago. And I mean, I think that phase is that craze is still kind of around, but, you know, definitely dying out. What else do I like? Well, I do think cleavers have a place, you know, breaking down boxes. They excel at that. With this version up here, I think D2 is a good steel for this knife. I love the way this knife looks especially. The ergos on these knives are fantastic. I think this little plate here is a great innovation. I think that's awesome. I want to see that on more and more products. And to me, the best thing about this knife is it's Gerber really stepping up its game. You know, it saw that this knife was a knife that a lot of people were like, oh, that knife, I wish I could enjoy that. And Gerber said, you know what? Here's another one. And we're going to fix some things. We're going to make it better. And I think that's awesome. And, you know, I mean, this knife here, very, very gritty. No finger flicking. The action on this guy is so good. It's so, I mean, it's not, you know, an action that you're going to get from, I don't know, something like this where it's, you know, on bearings, but it's a good action. And I really appreciate that. So I've been talking about, you know, I talked about in a video a long time ago how I got into knives. I told a story about how one day, you know, at college, I was sitting down in my swivel chair. My keys, which are on a carabiner on my belt, got caught. And when I stood up, they got pulled off the carabiner, and I didn't know that. I went to dinner that night, got back kind of late. My roommate was out partying, and I realized I was locked out of the dorm. And I didn't want to ask the RA for a key because you can only do that once, and I didn't want to really waste it. I was like, ugh. And I had this guy in my pocket, so I pulled him out, and the screws holding the window on to my dorm were flatheads. So I undid it with the, you know, with the tip of the blade, and then I rammed the knife under the windowsill and popped the window open and crawled into the window, you know, broke into my own dorm. So, I mean, that right there, those are irreplaceable memories with this knife. And so that's one of the reasons I like this knife so much. And, you know, this knife here, I bought this the summer of my senior year, you know, right before I was going to college. I wanted to get myself some knives. I bought this in a CRKT Fossil, you know, just to kind of have. And these knives here, they got me looking up knife reviews on YouTube. You know, they got me interested in, you know, I'd always been interested in knives, but they got me into, you know, learning about what makes a good knife good and stuff. And so, you know, I really, really like that. And besides, Gerber is a company that I have fond memories of. This knife here, this was given to me by my dad when I was 12. I carried this forever. And so, you know, I've always been looking for a Gerber knife to put in my pocket again. And, you know, there just hasn't been one that I've really liked. And this is a knife that I've been carrying quite a bit. And so I really like that. And you know, especially the fact that they improved it so much from this variant. You know, this knife here is, oh my gosh, man, that hurts. Undoing the lock is hard. But they've improved it, and I think that's fantastic. I think that's amazing. You know, I carried this guy for a lot. My blue jeans rubbed off on the G10. And now, I mean, it's only natural I get the blue jean micarta version to replace it. But, so that's really, you know, what I like about this knife. I think it's a good utility knife. I think the action is good. I think it's a good looking knife. I think it's got some, you know, innovative touches. And you know, it's just kind of sentimental. And it shows Gerber improving, you know, and building themselves up. So what do I not like about this knife? Well, I mean, this guy, a little bit of lock stick. It's been around. I could probably fix it with some Sharpie. Just haven't gone around to doing that yet. The fact that they're still making versions that are not so good is still a little bit disappointing, but, you know, I do think that these versions are overpriced. I think this guy's priced decently. It's not, you know, it's not blowing me away, but it's also not, you know, making me cry out in outrage. Really, a lot of the problems I have with this knife, it's hard for me to overcome my biases towards, you know, finally having a knife, you know, this knife, but being worth a dang. And so, you know, a lot of the problems are things I'm thinking about with this guy. You know, this guy, the action is terrible. It's super gritty. You know, I guess I haven't tried taking apart this guy yet, but this guy's probably Loctite shut just like this one is. That's not pretty. But, you know, this guy was just kind of painful to use. You know, pushing that over super hard. Very slow action. You know, even in this guy, the thumb hole is chamfered a little bit. So a lot of the problems that I have with, you know, a lot of the problems I have with this guy have been fixed in this guy. And so, to me, you know, I guess maybe I'm wearing, I don't know, maybe I'm being too biased here, but, you know, it's making, the biases are making it hard for me to complain about stuff, which I'm sure there are things to complain about. I mean, this guy could be ground better, for sure, but still, you know, cleaver. I don't think I ever really talked about the size on these guys, besides the size comparisons. But blade length, 3.6 inches. Overall length, 8.4 inches. So, I mean, it's not, I mean, they're big knives, but it's not like they're so big you can't handle them type of knives. So, that's nice. But, yeah, the thing that, after, you know, having this guy for a long, long time, and having this guy for, you know, just a little while, the thing that I've kind of decided in my own mind is everyone who didn't give the Flatiron a shot because they heard bad things about it needs to give it a shot with this version here, because this version here is really good. And, you know, I really want to see Gerber doing more of their, offering their knives in the 7CR version and then a D2 version. You know, they do it with the Asada and with this guy. And I just think it'd be so cool. I mean, maybe no one else thinks this, but wouldn't it be a little bit interesting to see a paraframe in D2 and maybe with a different pocket clip? I don't know. Maybe. But this is turning into a review of Gerber as a whole. But, you know, this knife isn't perfect, but it's really, really good, especially compared to this. And that's all I have to say. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.